So, hey, what happens when two big dorks decide they want to get together and sell some comics at a comic show together? Watch and find out, and maybe you can avoid some of the pitfalls that we had.
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. Welcome into the next installment of Best Coast Comics, the podcast where we talk about our experience as collectors. I'm Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and I'm joined by Bigby McFly, the comic guy. So we want to talk to you today. This episode is going to be all about our experience at Frankenstein Comic Swap. Happened on Saturday, October 18th at the Lloyd Center Mall in Portland, Oregon. This is a show. We'll kind of give you some background on what the show is here. It's been around for a long time. It's a fantastic meetup in the Portland area. A lot of local vendors, and not just vendors, but even hobbyists and people who just are just collectors that have a lot of stuff they want to sell or try to trade. And also some vendors and some people that are affiliated with shops or own shops as well. It's tons and tons and tons of comic books. It's on two different floors in an old, I don't know, H&M or one of those bigger kind of stores in a mall that's 2 stories long, 2 stories with an internal staircase, um, just filled with comic books. There's tons of great stuff. And you and I have gone there several times together. We've talked about it on the channel and really
Yeah,
picked up a lot of great deals and stuff. Like, I mean, you have hunted some amazing stuff at the Frankenstein Comic Swap in the past, I feel like.
there
Um,
was a book you got from me at the end that I got from a dollar bin a couple years ago or a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Nice key book too. Just a great show. It's one of the most positive comic collector, like I say pro comic collector as in like it's a net positive for comic collectors. And
Oh yeah,
it's just one of those things that I'd never want to miss after going the first time with you, checking it out. And last March, that happens twice a year. It happens in October, nearish Halloween, and it happens in March, nearish St. Patrick's Day. And the last time, shared a booth with Dan's X-Men Comics on Instagram. You should go give him a follow. And QWERTY, like the keyboard, QWERTY Comics over on Instagram as well. And that was my first time ever vending comic books at a show of any kind. I've done online sales and stuff like that before, and face to face, but never actually at a show. And then this time, what happened is, kind of in that interim between the last show and this one, I'd sort of mentioned to Bigby, I was like, "Hey, would you ever want to kind of maybe come in and partner up on that, and we could kind of take this Best Coast comic thing and put it on the retail side from just our claim sales." And he said,
I really prefer to use that show as like a hunting ground, but
"That is what he said."
then I kind of came around to it.
Um, yeah, I think we're a couple of collectors that are. I think we both kind of have this impulse of, as much as we love collecting, and we still do. We also need to make some adjustments to our collections and kind of get rid of some stuff.
Yeah.
I
So
think
we're
that's really
kind of
common.
moving forward with that idea, the goal from like the trade that I just did, that kind of thing of like taking smaller pieces. Dan likes to say trading ponies for horses.
It's a good one. I
Yeah.
like that.
So
Yeah. And we definitely, I know I've talked about it a million times. I need to downsize what I have. And hey, little bit of a sneak peek of what's gonna happen on your show. I did actually accomplish a good chunk of that goal. That's really awesome. So
mine got bigger though.
temporarily, I hope. I did also bring home some stuff too, and we'll talk about that as well because I know people
Yeah,
enjoy that aspect of it as well.
for sure.
We'll kind of share that. But yeah, it's a great show. We were really happy to be part of it. Luckily, QWERTY Comics was able to get us on the list, so we ended up basically splitting 3 tables amongst 4 people. Although Bigby and I were kind of acting as one seller.
Mhm.
And really the way we had it set up, I think for people it was pretty seamless because it almost was like 3 smaller sellers at the show, kind of all just kind of standing next to each other. And we were able to kind of leverage that. But we got to talk a little bit about how we got ready for the show and the setup process and all that kind of stuff too, of course.
Right.
So why don't you jump in with that? Like, what was your pre-show individually? Like, what was your kind of process on getting ready for the show?
Well, I would say like the first thing was kind of a gamble idea that we both had, where it was like
Yeah.
we were both going to have a bunch of bulk books, and we just said, you know what? How about we just split whatever we make on bulk books down the middle, whatever I sell, I sell. Whatever you sell, you sell, and we'll split that profit of the bulk books right down the middle. That way, we don't have to do a whole lot of record keeping, and I think that worked out pretty well. I like that idea. You got to be pretty good friends with the person that you're doing that with, and and I was comfortable with the idea of like, whatever I get for these, I'm good. So, and I think you were
Yeah.
the same way. So
Yeah, and I mean, it was kind of that idea of like, well, we could each have, we were thinking about the amount of space we had. Is kind of the way I was looking at it. It's like, well, we could each bring like 3 boxes of bulk stuff, but I mean, you go to these shows and like you'll even at this show, you'll see vendors that have 40 long boxes of stuff for people to dig through, and people will sit there and they'll go through every comic book or a lot of the sections of it or whatever. And in my head, it's like this is that kind of a show where if you have that variety, you're going to draw in a lot of those kind of people. And our goal was, at least mine especially, was to sell a lot of stuff, or more even so than make a lot of money. I wanted to sell a lot of stuff to make some room and kind of clear out some of those boxes. And so it was like, well, if we combine our efforts and we, instead of us each having those 3 boxes next to each other or whatever, if we just, had them all be the same, it would probably look better to people. And I think
mhm.
that proved out, by the way, by the end of the show. I think that did help.
Yeah, so
Um,
we decided to go with the pricing that I used at my booth at the game store at the mall, which is $3 a book, or 4 for 10, or 10 for 20,
yeah.
for our bulk books, and that seemed to work out pretty good.
Yeah. And then we each had you brought 2 boxes of different stuff that was, not part of the bulk pricing. And I'll let you talk about that in a second. And then I brought 1 box of stuff that pretty much was either keys or books that were high enough, like uh, con exclusive variant or whatever, that they were high enough dollar value that I didn't want them in the bulk. But I also want to say, hey, if I sell some of these, great, it'll help kind of pad my profits. And then you had 2 boxes of other stuff, and I'll let you talk about how you divided those up.
It was same kind of thing. It was keys and variants. I didn't really have a price threshold. I just knew like which things I thought would sell for a higher uh, price, and I was actually quite pleasantly surprised that I was right on a lot of things. Like we had people coming in buying a ton of Peach Momoko, or a ton of J. Scott Campbell, or Adam Hughes, or
Yeah,
name your favorite artist. So
right.
like we had those. I had those ones segregated from the other stuff. And so most of my stuff was either, starting at, I think probably the lowest price was like $5, and then went on its way up. One box was like a third of it was all Amazing Spider-Man variants, and the other one, the rest of it was all Amazing Spider-Man, because I knew that our 2 other booth mates were going to be primarily X-Men stuff. And so I was like, I
Yeah.
don't want to bring X-Men stuff because we're all going to be selling the same things. So that was kind of the thought process, and it bore some good fruit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, when it comes, so I guess I'll kind of talk a little bit about um the nuts and bolts of like getting ready for the show and like the prep.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then I'll let you kind of,
Procrastinators unite.
yeah, yeah, which is true. Now I had a little bit of an excuse, but not much of one. Um, which is that I have a car that has a like a power rear hatch lift gate, and it conveniently stopped working a little while before the show. And I'd been trying to get it into a shop to get it looked at, because I'm like, hey, I've got this nice larger size SUV. It'd be nice to load all our stuff into that, and I can take your stuff and my stuff. We can all just drive down together and uh, make loading and unloading a little bit easier. Um, and Unfortunately, it stopped working, and I spent basically 3 business days or so at a shop. Long story that I won't get everybody bored with, but I was trying to get that fixed. And so some of the days that I'd planned on doing some of the serious prep work, pulling comics and pricing and kind of going through and changing price tags and stuff to make the bulk scheme make sense, I didn't have time to do that. Nowhere near as much as I wanted. But also,
Yeah.
I'm a procrastinator, like Bigby was saying. we kind of have a similar superpower with that. ADHD unite, kind
Right.
of.
Yeah.
And so I basically spent 2 nights really, probably was the vast majority of time. Now, luckily, I did have some stuff that was basically ready to go from the last show, some boxes that I hadn't touched too much. And so I was trying to get 5 boxes ready. I basically had 2 boxes done, and I needed to get like 3 more solid filled out, pull stuff, price stuff, that kind of thing. And I'd planned on doing slabs, ended up never doing that. I think that was the right move because honestly, I didn't get the impression that people were gunning for slabs at that show, and I never really have.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
was
mean,
I was surprised. Like I had one big sale of 2 big books, but for the most part, it was a lot of 5 and 7, 5, 7, 10, 15 at the high end
yeah,
for me.
as
And a whole lot of the bulk books selling.
yeah,
So luckily, I didn't just bring those box items. I brought 1 box of refill for the books, so that wasn't going to go on the table. So.
yeah, that was smart too. Do you want to share the quote from Mill Geek?
Oh, rivers of nickels and dimes. That's what he told us up at SummerCon, and
Yeah,
it turned out to be true at this show too. It was a whole lot of small sales, which make for a big sale.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with how well we did. But we'll get into that. But I mean, yeah,
yeah,
for prep, like I know I spent probably the better part of like 2 nights. I had scheduled the entire day off on Friday to work on that. And then it ended up I had a doctor's appointment in the morning, and then I finagled, had to go request some days off for future doctor's appointments. So I had to go to work for a little bit. Then I was like, oh, I'll go have lunch. And then while I was at lunch, the Mariners game was on. So I'm watching the game and I'm working on a video on lunch while I'm at lunch. And the day just kind of got away from me. And before I knew it, it was like 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and I still haven't really done any prep or pricing. And so I ended up working and pricing stuff until 5 in the morning Saturday, and then getting 3 hours of sleep and jumping out of bed and running down and opening up my area down there and pulling a chair. Where I have an area where I can open up and bring stuff out easily. So I pulled a chair out to that area with the stuff I was bringing, and was pulling more books while I was waiting for Chris to arrive and taping the labels onto my boxes and everything and getting everything ready to go. And so there was that, and Chris, good thing he sent me that message is that he sent me some texts, and I was so laser focused on what I was doing I didn't even realize it till we're at the show. I'm like, oh, Chris is coming over the bridge now.
those all important updates after the fact. Yeah, I mean, not too far off from what I was doing. Like it's funny, this is kind of a cool thing. It's nice having a partner you feel confident in. Like we were kind of texting back and forth on late-ish Friday night or whatever, about, hey, like, what do you think about the price on this? Or, what would you price this at? I think I was kind of asking some questions like that because, and I'll share this, like for me, it's not the cheap books and it's not the expensive books that I really have a hard time pricing with. It's the ones that's like, technically the FMV on this book is $30, but you kind of look at it and you go, I don't think anybody's going to be spending $30 on that show or at that show for this book. Unless it just, it's one of those books where it's like somebody might walk up and that might be the one they were looking for. But realistically, if you want it to move, you got to price it a little bit better. So the question is how much though? Like what actually entices somebody to buy that book at what value point? And so that's the question I posed to Bigby on a specific GI Joe book, for example, and a couple like variants and stuff that were exclusives or whatever.
And
And we
that
were,
book ended up moving with what you priced it at. So
yeah, that's true. You get good point. Good point. And then also like kind of sharing like, oh, hey, here's what I'm seeing on, eBay, or here's what I'm seeing on Cover Price or whatever. Kind of doing some of that back and forth. And I'm also just moral support.
yeah, I was trying not to get too. That's one of my problems is I get too hung up on the details. So I'll be like on things that really don't matter. So I'm going like cover price, and then I'm comparing that to uh, I was using
Go
the app.
Collect or whatever. Yeah.
It wasn't Go Collect. It was
Hip Comic and
Hip Comic has that cool scanning feature. So I would scan and then check cover price, and then I'm checking against, So yeah, I think at one point I ended up at where I was kind of using an amalgamation of like Hip Comic, and then if Hip Comic didn't pull and that for me the hard thing of pricing is like variants, like a lot of variants. Like Hip Comic didn't have, none of them were represented on. Nobody had any for sale.
Yeah.
So there was no history of it. And so then I ended up using like an amalgamation of Hip Comic, Google Lens, and cover price. That seemed to work. But I would say, like, so you had the opposite of what I was thinking, which was a lot of times like I'd have a book that was like $5 or $6, but it was like a really recent J. Scott Campbell website exclusive. And I'm like, the only way you're going to get that is you're going to have to pay shipping, and you're going to have to wait for it from J. Scott Campbell. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to put this at $7 or $8 because you're going to have to pay more the other way to get it. So
yeah.
And that seemed to work out. People were like, yo, $7 or $8, that's a great deal. They were grabbing it because you can see it in person. You can see the condition. It's in hand.
Yeah.
And so that seemed to work out okay.
Definitely. And I mean, for me, I think the overall strategy was I do want to move a lot of stuff. And honestly, the last time I went to the show, I had a pretty lackluster end of day total that I was, I cleared my table fees. I didn't necessarily move a lot or sell a lot beyond that. I did a few things. And then I just walked around the last hour of the show like an idiot and spent all the money that I did make. So I basically walked home with nothing from the last one, except for some cool books, which is not nothing. But then this show, I was like, I really am motivated to get some of this stuff out the door.
Crazy.
So I had, yeah, that was a joke that we came up with on the Friday night before the show. It was like I was just kind of crazy christening some prices. They're just kind of slashing prices.
Crazy slashing prices.
Saturday. Come down to Frankenstein Comic Swap and get some amazing Crazy Chris deals.
Right. And he had some great deals for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I had some books people were pulling out that I think were Bigby was kind of
surprised me. Some of the stuff they were pulling out of the bulk bins, I was like, that's in the bulk bin. And then like I surprised myself on some of the stuff people pulled out of my bulk bins because I didn't realize the cover price on some of the I buy a lot of bulk books from stores that don't deal in back issues, and so I get them at in big lots, and so I was just throwing them in the bins. I didn't realize they had $10 cover prices on a lot of those books, and so we're starting off. The highest price we have is $3, and then you go 4 for 10, and then 10 for 20, and people are like, this. I'm getting a bunch of books that are cover price like 10 and $8 and $10 a book.
Yeah, but I mean. Yeah, it brings up a really good point about the state of the market, the state of the economy, the state of new modern variant comics and stuff like that. And there's a lot of, you buy up some of that additional stuff, but there's a lot of shops that end up holding on to that stuff, and then they, we all know inventory like that can sit dead for a long time.
Inventory creep is what it's called, and it'll kill you. It'll kill you. Yeah.
And I mean, frankly, I hope this is okay. We'll edit this out if you're not okay with me saying this, but you've got tons of that kind of stuff, so you're motivated to move some of it too, probably. And you probably could.
I've been very what's the word? Is reticent the right word? Kind of lazy, but not really wanting to not. And also, I've had some health issues. To be honest, I haven't been my mobility hasn't been great, and so I don't want to do a lot of standing and committing to that. So going to the prep side of things, I was going to make brand new fresh bulk bins out of that stuff, and instead I was like, I'm hurting, I'm just going to go grab bins from the kiosk and take them away for a couple days, and then I'll bring them back. And so that worked out okay for me.
Luckily that was kind of came in clutch, and it helped out a lot. But at the end of the day, I think that really it was about, kind of going back to what I was trying to say with why I was doing that. It wasn't just because like these things have to go. It was also like I have a Bigby has a long history in comic book retail. I've got a pretty good background in retail management and specialty retail. And so it was kind of the idea of like, well, I know that from every good shop I've ever dealt with, you don't just, if you have like a 50-cent bins or if you have a dollar bins, it isn't going to hurt you to put some things out there that are worth a little bit more than that. Doesn't mean everything that you have that's high dollar should go in those bins, but if you do that, what you end up having is this really positive effect where somebody grabs them and they go, "This is a really good deal. I should keep digging," and
Yeah, and then
it,
they
and
go, "Oh, well, I like that
yeah,
artist or writer." It may not be as good a deal of that. It's not a big, but what I still, oh yeah, I wanted a few of those, and then they pick up those. Oh, hey, here's another really good deal, and then they just keep going on and on,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah, and we collectively then letting people know. It's like, well, we could tell you got a couple things you like there. Hey, guess what? If you pick out a few more books, they're going to be cheaper. You're actually going to save some money if you. In fact,
that
there
was
was
our
there was
story we kept telling.
there was a sale where honestly, like this is just how it went down. Like a guy was grabbing books, and we were actually like, if you grab 3 more books, we're going to give you a better deal than you're getting right now.
It was gonna be $21.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you grab 3 more books, it's gonna be $20, and you get 3 books for free, basically.
Yeah, for
And
negative $1 back to you.
and the guy was just like, he looked for a little bit, and he just couldn't wrap his head around it. He's like, I'd rather just pay the 21. I'm like, okay, I'll just charge you the 20. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel bad about that, but okay.
I mean, it was one of those things where it's that's the kind of mentality we approached it with because I think we both understand this. I think we didn't even have to say this. It's like we know that we want everybody to leave happy. We want everybody, even
Yeah.
if you were just browsing and we didn't find what you want, we want to be like, those guys were nice. Maybe next time I'll check them out again too, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's important.
I
You
mean,
want to be a positive part of the community.
we've kind of skipped past how the chronological order of
Yeah.
things went, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
So
we should
like,
definitely talk about that.
so yeah, so we did our pricing in the evening. And Chris came to pick
Mhm.
me up. We got everything loaded up into the smaller car because he wasn't able to get the repair done on the car that he wanted to have for the show.
Thank my wonderful
Um,
wife, the Copper Age Babe, for letting us use her smaller SUV to kind of.
yes,
It did work. We got everything in there. Didn't
was
bottom out even
fine,
once.
absolutely perfect. Thank you to the shop that I work with for loaning the cart that they let me have, a collapsible flatbed that so we could put like 12 boxes of comics on it if we wanted to, and wheel those in and
Yeah.
not have to make multiple trips or anything or kill my back.
Yeah.
And so that was great. And so then, yeah, Chris picked me up. We ran down to the local mini mart, grabbed some energy drinks and some food, and away we went. And we encountered a little bit of traffic and whatnot on the way there.
Yeah,
Discussed a few plot points and planning on the way, and we got there with just enough time to set up and get going. And then they opened the doors at 11 o'clock, and we were flooded with people.
Yeah, so the way the show works, they do this every year. I think the times may change a tiny bit, but what they usually do every time is the first hour you pay $5, but you get
Early
in
bird.
early bird. Yeah, and then in this case that was at 11 a.m. and then at noon it's only $1 to get in. By the way, I think I don't want to say it's seniors and kids are free.
Yep.
Kids are definitely free. I can't remember if it's seniors as well. So you basically most people come in just to pay $1. I mean, we had people that walked in and said they just got there like an hour before the show was over.
Yeah, people were tearing their booths down and leaving, and people were like, "I just got here."
Yeah, because $1 to get in. I mean, you're probably going to get a couple of deals real fast if you're quick.
Right.
But pretty much worth it. So what I want to really kind of point out real fast about the show. So it's run by a couple of Portland area guys, Tim and Andy. I know Tim is involved with the shop. I can't remember which one. I know Andy is involved with Cosmic Monkey Comics. He's the owner. And it's just super awesome. I've talked to him a few times about the show. And it's just something where they just they're not in it to make a ton of money. They just want it to kind of be self-sufficient and kind of give people a place to enjoy and love comics and spread, something that Bigby talked about forever, something that I believe in, spreading their love of comics and kind of giving comics a venue, kind of a third space, which is kind of a term that's come around recently. I really like. Instead of just going online and buying or just going to LCSs and buying, you're kind of giving giving the area a much needed place where it's all focused on comics pretty much, and some toys and stuff, but it's 90% comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a really great and great environment. So these people start coming in. We're getting a lot of people just our position on the floor. I wouldn't say it was prime real estate. Like we don't really get to choose that. That's kind of you get luck of the draw to a certain extent.
Right.
I think vendors that have been a part of it since the beginning, I think kind of get oh, we'll take the same spot or whatever.
Which is kind of nice, even if it's not prime. People know where to come look for you.
Yes,
If they had
that's
a good
true.
experience with you the year before, they're like, "Oh, over here where that guy was last year."
Yeah.
So
But we were kind of the way I'll describe it, because I know you guys can't visualize it and I don't have a picture showing you the whole layout, but we're kind of out of the line of sight when you walk in the door. And I think all of us that were kind of sharing that space all agree that it's pretty easy to go through and just kind of maybe make a lap and get caught up on the main drag and stuff like that, and not come back or something. But we still had a lot of foot traffic. We still had a lot of people coming up, and some familiar faces. We saw some people that are friends of the channel, people we know, other people
yeah,
that are in the comic book community or the comic book, YouTube community, even people like Sleepy Reader 666, Damien. We had Comics with Bueller, Travis stopped by. Comics Limited, another Travis stopped by
right.
later on.
Scott PDX, you got a booth there.
Yep, exactly. So, and a lot of people that are just very awesome viewers of the channel. Hopefully, you guys are watching right now, and would come up and be like, "Oh, hey, I like your channel," right? All that kind of stuff. That's great.
And
A lot
some
of
new
fun.
viewers of the channel now.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that too. That too. We were both prepared with some stickers to hand out and kind of let everybody know
Thanks
that,
to
hey,
Dr.
yeah.
Plagueis for
Oh
bringing
yeah,
my emergency stickers at the last minute. So
the
that
brand new
was great.
BMF sticker. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, my new BMF, Bigby McFly. So that was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, and so yeah, I think I I I was I'm curious to ask you, like, how was your experience with me and my carnival barker style of retailing?
Well, yeah, we kind of talked about this a little bit after the show. Like I have a very different so Bigby, it's worth mentioning if people don't know, you've owned comic book shops before, run comic book shops, you've vended at comic cons shows before.
And then
Um
trade shows like Gen Con and stuff like that too
yeah,
for bigger companies too, where I'm trying to draw people in that are you're fighting for all the flashy lights and everything else. Everybody, you're just like you make eye contact with somebody. You got to be like, hey, how you doing? Come on over, let's take a look. That kind of.
and then I've got kind of so he, that's Bigby style. My style's a little bit different in terms of I think probably because I worked a lot of specialty retail where it's like I knew people were coming in to whatever store I worked at, video games or just different kinds of specialty retail. I knew they were coming in. I knew that what they were going to be doing is they're going to kind of want to look around a little bit, and so I acknowledge them. I let them come in, and then I kind of start to see like, okay, just based on your body language or where your eyes are going or the kind of stuff you're looking at. Oh, you're looking for something specific, or oh, you're just looking, or even sometimes like some people just want to be left alone. They just want to look, shop,
Right,
and then if you start pushing too much, it actually makes them walk off. So I
right,
kind of take a little bit extra for a second. So in a way, I think it was kind of a yin and a yang approach, really.
yeah,
And we were each kind of, for the most part, we each stationed kind of one side of our booth and one on the other, right next to each other. But it's like, we're kind of like I've got these folks that are coming up from this direction. You've got those folks that are coming up from these direction. So I think it kind of worked hand in hand, and then we were
yeah,
able to kind of have synergy with each other and be like, oh hey, like what he's saying, here's this, or he's saying across to somebody about a deal that we have or about a book that we had, and then I can kind of chip in or grab it for that person or whatever. So I think we worked pretty well together.
I thought it
uh
was phenomenal.
yeah,
I thought it worked really well. Like you're saying, you had kind of the so I have the I see you. I want you to come over. You had I want to fill in the details in the middle. And then I had, oh, you seem to be losing interest or walking away. Let me draw you back over here for a second for one
yeah,
last, maybe there's something else we can get you
yeah,
in at or whatever. So
that's great.
I think it worked out really well.
Yeah, no problems with any of that. We will talk about a little bit about what we learned and what we want to, maybe do differently in the forward going forward, or lessons we can pass on to you if you're thinking about doing something like this, or you do something like this
Right.
occasionally.
Right.
And we will get to that though, because there are a couple. I guess I'd just say opportunities is kind of the right way to put it.
Mhm.
Um, which is good. We wanted to learn some stuff. It's our first time. It's our first time doing this together. We've done
Yeah,
Claim
and
Club together,
I
but
told you, like, going in, it's interesting because Chris and I are like very yin and yang. So like in the morning, Chris was much more, uh, I don't want to say
anxious.
stressed, but
I was anxious.
anxious,
Yeah.
and I was in. I told him, I'm like, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I'm in the I don't give an F mode right now. I'm just like, whatever. I'm here. Not like I
Yeah.
don't care, but like whatever happens, happens. I'm good. I'm going with the flow. At the
Yeah.
end of the show, I was really stressed because things weren't going the way I thought they were going to go, and Chris was very zen, so that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kinda usually how I roll with it. I mean, whether it was, going up and doing panels and hosting, I'm like, I'm gonna be nervous before the thing starts. Once it starts, I'm kinda like, "All right, we're doing it, it's fine."
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
already it's always about the buildup is always worse than the thing for me, but yeah, we did kinda balance each other out a little bit. Um,
I will say one of my favorite parts of the favorite experiences at the show was that we had a gentleman come up and he was looking through the books and he kind of had this. It was kind of quiet. And he kind
mm,
of had a sad look on his face and he was just kind of looking at things and he was just kind of wandering around. And I was like, "Is everything okay?" And he was just like, yeah, I just I can't really, decide. I want to get back into reading and everything, but I just, I can't really decide." And then I looked away. I was talking to someone else. I looked back and he almost looked like he was going about ready to cry. And I'm like, are you okay?" And he's like, "My apartment burned down. I lost everything I had, and I don't have any comics. And I kind of want something to take my mind off of things and to be able to read and yada yada." And I was like, "Oh, dude," I was like, "Pick 5 books out of the bin on me, you know." And he's like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally. I mean, that's awful." And that seemed to like lighten his load, kind of,
yeah,
make him feel better. And he picked out his 5 books, and then he was like, "You know what? I'm gonna buy a bunch from you guys." And he just started picking out a whole bunch more. But he
yeah,
was just like so happy that I don't know that I just made it easier for him. He didn't. He was thinking, just, "Oh, well, now I have to pick out 5 because this guy's letting me." So rather than like I don't know, getting too caught up in the thought process or whatever.
right.
And so I thought that was pretty cool. I was happy that the guy was happy, and yeah, it was a win-win.
Yeah, one I don't know, like, I feel strange kinda saying this sometimes, but it's like there's a lot of stuff that happens in the comic book community, um, that you hear about, and that especially I guess maybe kind of in our positions as people who do this on YouTube, we hear about some other things that maybe aren't quite as public or whatever, where people get, sour grapes or they bad trade or a bad sale or and you're
Right.
just like, "Man, all this stuff, it's so depressing." And I mean, it's not all like that, of course, but it's just something it keeps happening and it can make you feel a little discouraged. And I can say pretty confidently, even though I don't think we've ever put it into words to each other, I can say pretty confidently, we want, we're not just there. The only reason that we're there isn't just to make money. That it's nice. It's a part of it.
No,
Uh,
yeah.
but we also want to have people walk away with comics and love comics and, hopefully make some new friends and new, people we can talk about it, if you talk to at future shows and say, "Oh, hey, I remember you, what'd you think about that book?" And, let's talk about some other stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
It's about being part of a community for real. It's not just about going and selling stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. For
I mean,
sure.
ostensibly that's what it's about, but there's more to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if I see that guy at another show and and he's like, I'm gonna ask him like, "How's your collection coming along? Are you recovering from what happened? And are you enjoying books again? That kind of thing." So it's like,
Yeah.
it's cool that way. And
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
it's neat to just and then a lot of times just like running across people that you don't expect to see or that you haven't seen in a long time. And like uh there was a lady who owns a little shop up here in our neck of the woods that we both knew her, but we didn't know both knew her. It was like we're
Yeah.
both like, "Oh, hey," and then like there was one of your childhood friends, and there was
Yeah.
just a lot of people. It was a pleasant surprise to see them there at the show. So
Yeah. A person I literally hadn't talked to in 25 years that I was friends with in middle school and high school and stuff, and uh, uh, used to talk about comics. If people don't remember, back then comics weren't as cool as they are now.
right,
If you can even call them cool still, but they definitely weren't as cool. And it's very cool to see him at a show like that and see him walking around buying comics, and then he shared some of his art that he's still working on with us. That's fun.
yeah,
That's a
so
highlight.
cool. It
Yeah.
was so cool. Yeah,
Um,
just a blast doing that whole thing there.
yeah.
But yeah, so there was like you said, there were some opportunities and sales and pickups
Yeah.
and stuff. I had
Yeah.
bought some books from Bronze. We did a little trading too.
I bought some stuff
That is
from Bigby.
that is um, one of my hangups is I don't like haggling with my friends or trying to do business with my friends because I don't know, it's easier for me to talk to a stranger and explain to them like my thought process of
Mhm.
like profit in what I need and manage my expectations. It's easier for me to stand up for myself to a stranger than it is with my friends.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm a
and
pretty
not
I'm a
I'm
pretty
saying like
hard
I
ass.
have to
So
stand up for myself with you, but I mean like I just feel like I don't want to hurt my friends' feelings.
yeah. One, and I feel relatively similarly. Like if I had the option of like, oh, I have this comic I know person A wants and I know person B wants it, and person A is just somebody who's a person out there or somebody I don't have previous experience with that just wants to buy it, and person A is like somebody who's a close friend or acquaintance. You're always kind of like, I almost would prefer to sell it to that person I don't really know, because again, I've people, uh, I've seen so many weird things in this community where it's like somebody's like, well, I think they ripped me off when I sold me this, or it's not the grade they said it was, or
Right.
sometimes there's some truth to that.
Right.
Sometimes it seems like people kind of want to stir some stuff up. Sometimes there's all kinds of things like that.
Right.
Um,
But
and
yeah, but we
yeah,
worked it through.
yeah,
Chris was super cool about it. He's like, look, you were like, I'm gonna go like get a drink or whatever, and when I come back, you tell me a number. It's okay. Whatever number you tell me is fine. I'm
yeah.
not gonna be mad.
Well, I mean, in that particular situation, so what it was is, so he Bigby hadn't really had a chance to go through the stuff, and we kind of got to a point where there wasn't somebody nonstop to the point where we could kind of go out and kind of look at some of the stuff that each other brought. And I mean, he pulled out some of the stuff from the bulk, and he pulled out some of the stuff from the keys, and it was like, we kind of ended up on a compromise. I feel like, and it's a couple things. It's like, well, clearly you're not going to go down on that stuff, and this stuff, we can kind of make a deal or whatever. And it worked
Right.
out, I think,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah,
So
I was happy with the books I got. I mean, some of the things you said to me while we were making the decision didn't necessarily sway me towards making the decision. Where you were saying like, I've gotten to the point where like that's a really cool cover and it's amazing artwork, but it looks just as nice as a JPEG on my computer as it does a book in hand.
yeah,
I think the bigger books that I was getting from you were all just really cool covers that I was like,
yeah,
yeah, and they're not like things that I have some sort of like emotional attachment to for that series or anything else. It's just
yeah.
like they're just really cool covers. And so yeah, I mean, there's some wisdom to what you were saying there.
Well, yeah, and I'd rather it's the same. I feel the same way about you as I do about somebody walking up. I'd way rather you walk away and not spend money that you weren't fully prepared to spend or that you have second guesses on or whatever, than come up and just spend all your money. Like, because it doesn't matter to me in the moment that you buy the books or not. It's not life or death. It's not going to put food on my family's table, that kind of thing. It's just like, hey, let's get rid of these and hopefully get a fair price for them, and
Right.
hopefully spread some comics to somebody who wants them more than me. But
Yeah.
it's also about like, hey, next time we talk, whether it's somebody who just walked up or whether it's you, I want you to know like that's how I feel.
Right.
And by the way, for those on the other side, Bigby is been very fair in negotiating anytime I've ever had to negotiate with him about hey, you want a certain thing and I want a certain thing, and we usually can kind of find some common ground, or if we can't, no big deal. Just
Right.
move
Yeah.
on.
And I try to like manage expectations, like tell people like this is where I'm coming from. This isn't a book for my personal collection. It's something I'm trying to flip. I have to get it at a certain rate so I can make a profit, So if that's not cool with you, I'm cool with not getting it, but that's where I have to be if I was going to pick it up, so that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's an interesting thing that happens with a lot of sellers, I feel like, especially at a show like this, because a show like this is not necessarily, it's not necessarily like the con circuit, where people are going around to show and they're expecting like, I need to get this because this is what I have into it, or all that kind of stuff. A lot of these people, again, they're selling like either their personal collection, or they're trying to downsize, or they kind of just dabble in selling. And so I feel like there's a lot of people there, though, that what you run into is they're kind of attached to a price, or maybe they have a certain thing in mind. But frankly, a lot of this stuff was picked up years ago. And in some
mm,
cases, those things have gone up. But in some cases, many cases, those things have gone down. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
you even see on the price tags, sometimes it's like,
right.
well,
Like, oh, you're not really up to date on your prices, are you? Yeah,
yeah.
that kind of thing.
And I
So,
think that when you have that conversation and you mention like, hey, literally, here's transparency of where I'm at and where I want to be, I think that does kind of help, because it kind of disarms for a second, like, okay, it's not just about getting top dollar. Like, do I really want to hold on to this? I've had 4 other conversations like this on this book. Do I really want to keep having this conversation on the book? Whatever it is. And that can kind of
mm,
help kind of, put everybody on the same page.
I'll point to a transaction I had at Terrificon with a guy where I was looking for some different keys, and one of them was the first appearance of Rhodey in Iron Man, and
Mhm.
I was like, walked by a guy's table. He had it up on the wall for like, I think he had $29 on it or something, and I'm like, pretty sure fair market value at that point was like $20 or something, and I'm like, hey, I'm interested in that, but like FMV on it's like 20. I'd give you 20, and he's like, I'm into it for way more than that. I bought it during the boom. I can't let it go for less than 25. And I was like, okay. And I started walking away, and he's like, yeah, I've been sitting on that book and he actually bought it before the boom, because he said, I've been sitting on that book for like 6 years. And I go, you've been sitting on a 20 something dollar key for 6 years. Do you understand the rule of rotating stock? I'm like, I'm just going to put that out there. I'm just saying, you're going to turn down a sale over $5. And he thought about it for about 2 minutes, and he goes, yep, it's yours.
Yeah. And I've had that experience, not exactly, but yes, variations on that several times too. And it's kind of, it's interesting to be on the other side of that too, for what we were doing. Didn't really happen too much on Saturday, but there was a little bit of like being on the other side of the haggling, with people trying to ask for a lower price. And I think I practically expected almost every transaction going into it, but it didn't happen anywhere near like that. And
Yeah.
no one was crazy lowballing or anything like that. I didn't have any of that anyway. I don't remember anything like that
No,
from
no,
me.
everybody was like
Yeah,
pretty fair. You had a guy come up who wanted to do some trading, right?
yeah.
Um, and then you went out for a few minutes and went and did some hunting, and then came back to me with an opportunity. So I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, well, so I guess we'll kind of, maybe just since it's part of the story, I'll show off a couple things. First of all, the guy who wanted to come up and do the trade, uh, wanted a couple books. The I think maybe technically there was maybe slightly more value on his side, but there were harder books for me to sell. Like, it was
Right.
going to be one of those things where it's like Baby was talking about rotating stock, right? I'm like, well, I've had those for a while. Like, I have a sunk cost on them, sure, but I've
They
had
were
them for a
definitely
while.
books that have lost heat
Yeah,
recently. That's for
yeah,
sure. There were a couple of them that were like they used to be fairly decently
right.
popular, and they've lost a lot of steam. So
Yeah, and he had a book that I isn't necessarily going to stay in my personal collection forever. It might. I do like the characters involved, and it's something that I have kind of been looking for a little bit, just because I think it's a fun book and I expected to find it in the wild somewhere. But that's the first appearance of the Umbrella Academy,
yeah,
in the Free Comic Book Day special. So I picked that up in the trade, which was really fun. Guy got a couple comic books. I kind of just I asked for little bit back in cash. I think he asked for like $5 back in cash or whatever.
Yeah, you did exactly what I was thinking I would have done. I was like, well, I would do that, but I need to get a little bit of cash on.
Yeah. It worked out. And then so I went and walked, like Bigby was saying, I went and walked around. There was a couple people that I knew that were kind of near us that I just wanted to, like, basically just say hi to. And I wanted just to take that lap and just sort of like have that, because like I said, we love shopping this show. I know you feel that way. I feel that way. And I just didn't want to have that FOMO feeling after, like, I didn't see anything, So and it was pretty dead by that point. As far as like in our area, I feel like there wasn't a ton coming up. So I did stop.
You hit a good lull.
Yeah,
at that point.
That's true. There was some more that came after that.
Yeah.
But I think everybody was like downstairs or something.
I did lunchtime.
Right. This was just kind of a fun little one I did at a booth. Didn't even catch the guy's names. It was two guys splitting one small table. And these comics, I got these for $1. Kind of a beat up copy of G.I. Joe 46, but I've always loved that comic.
It's a great cover. Mike Zack, right?
Yep. And then I'm such a dummy. You guys know I do the booty cover of the week. I've talked about Nightwing's booty before. I'm an equal opportunity booty guy, and this is one of the better Nightwing booty covers out there. So
well, there we go.
Yeah, I had to get that. It's just fun.
One for the ladies.
And then have you really bought comic books if you haven't bought something with foil on it? So got a little Silver Surfer action there. I've always thought that's a neat cover.
Issue 50? Is
that 75? 75. The Herald Ordeal, part 6 of 6. And then I'll just say real fast, because it happened kind of throughout the day. We'll just real quickly show off some stuff that Bigby kind of gave me or I bought. And this is one of the books I bought from him. Got a Chris Boccello, Something is Killing the Children 0 there. Very cool cover.
I love that cover. Such a cool cover.
And then we were kind of just, at the end of the day, kind of a couple books that you're just like, I feel like these are up your alley. Gotta love that.
Those need to go home with you.
Yeah.
They belong in your house.
I'm probably one of the few people out there that just thinks that's one of the top 2 or 3 covers of all time, even with the stupid ad that's usually on the top on the original. I still love it. And then you said this one, had some water damage and stuff like that, but I'm a big sucker for this. But G.I. Joe 306, the Kubert variant. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's such a nice
thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah. It was that was at the end wrapping things up. I was like, these couple of things need to go to your place.
And then there was one other transaction that we kind of both got involved in. Do you have anything you want to show off or talk about before that, or do you want to?
No, my show off things happened later, so that's fine.
All right. So a gentleman who had stopped by our booth, and I kind of wanted to, I was like, I recognized him and I wanted to go up and say hi again. And first thing he says, but hey, by the way, just to let you know, I'm a huge fan of your show. And I was like, oh, dude, that's such a nice thing to hear. It was really nice of him. Mm-hmm. What drew me in is he had all of his boxes kind of labeled by title, and he had a pretty substantial section of Invincible. And after seeing what Bigby had done with doing a big trade involving a lot of, not just, but a lot of Invincible books, I was like, yeah, I think there's, probably not a bad idea to flip through these and see what he has. So I flipped through a whole bunch of Invincible books, and there was one in particular. Shout out to Longbox Love Affair, because that's another reason that I kind of ended up at this booth. I didn't realize it was the same vendor he was talking about. But I was telling him how he loves Invincible. He kind of made it a point to seek out some Invincible stuff. And he was there last March and at this show. And he mentioned that he'd seen a vendor that had the later comic in the run that has a really cool, iconic Adam Eve cover. I think it's 145. Can't remember the issue number exactly. We'll show it in a second. But so I found out, oh, this is the guy that Longbox Love Affair was talking about. And I was like, well, I definitely want that book. I immediately thought, like, it feels a little high on that one particular book. And, I told him just as much. And he kind of made me an offer. And I'm like, okay, well, that seems pretty fair. And I said, well, just out of curiosity, if I was going to get like these 5 or 6 books, what would you do on that? And then he said a price. And I was kind of like, okay, I'm probably in at that price. And then I thought, well, gosh, I should go grab Bigby because I know he's done this before and there's more Invincible there. It's kind of out of my budget of what I was willing to spend because I was thinking about what I'd made of the show. I was like, I don't want to go too crazy. Um, I was like, hey, I ran around. Do you want to go over and see if maybe we could kind of do a bulk for all of his Invincible? Because he seems like he's willing to negotiate a good price on it. That seemed fair. And, I brought Bigby over. We're looking at it. And then he says, hey, by the way, I thought while you were over there, I thought about this. And he pulls out another big key in the run, which we'll show in a second, kind of get everybody up to speed on. I was like, okay, that's a different thing. All right. And then we kind of ended up looking at all of it, and I think kind of doing some negotiating back and forth and some talk and
doing the managed expectations thing, explaining like, this isn't a book for my personal collection. This is something I need to flip, so I need to make a profit on it. So what you've got these marked at, I need to get a substantial discount in order if I'm going to buy them all. And so we worked something out, and he was super cool, super amiable to it.
Shout out to Steven, by the way.
Super appreciate you, buddy. And so we ended up picking up all except for the one, and then the one I just said, it was funny because we were both thinking the same thing. I go, well, just out of curiosity, how much do you need to get that one? For me, just to get all of your Invincible. And he was like, spit out a number, and I had a counter offer, and he said, sure. So
and so I think originally the idea was like, well, I've got this. I think it was like 5 or 6 books or something like that I'm mostly interested in, and then the rest, I think we was kind of like you might mostly be interested in, with the idea to kind of move them. And we made the deal. Before I show the books, though, I guess I should maybe we kind of just jump forward a little bit and explain like how it worked out afterwards.
Sure, yeah. So at the end, we're leaving, and well, there's another level to this. We're leaving, and Chris walks by a booth that he sees a book that he's been looking at for the whole show, and he says, "Hey, just out of curiosity, how much? What's the lowest you take on that book?" And they gave him a number, and Chris was like, "Well, I don't really have that much to spend right now." And then I'm pretty good friends with, or I have acquaintances with the people who run that booth, and so they were tearing down, and the husband was taking boxes out, and I talked to the wife and I said, hey, and Chris took off with his stuff out.
I was already like loading, like getting ready to like go list up the car, because I was just like in that mindset of like, okay, well, fair enough, maybe next time, right?
Right. And so I had already talked to them about the Invincible that I had picked up, because I knew they were, because I had actually had the conversation with Chris, like, do I play this the long game with this? Do I hold on to these, or do I do make the quick flip? And Chris was like, I think you made the quick flip. And so I went over and I was like, hey, I got a good deal on these Invincible. I think I can, get them to you, or you can still make some money on them. And they were like, oh, we just made a huge buy. We can't really afford to spend that money, but we want those. And so I was like, hey, that book that my friend is interested in, would you trade it for these Invincibles? And she goes, yeah, I think so. Let me call my husband. And the husband was like, just took everything out to the car, and we're planning to get together in the spring to do some sort of a trade session anyway. And he's like, how about we just hold off and we just do it later on? But yeah, we probably interested in those Invincibles because they're hot and they'll move faster than that one book. And so that's kind of where we were at, and then I'll let you take it from there.
So I'll kind of show off to you guys what we ended up with, but I guess all this, I just want to put the bow on that part of the story so it makes sense of why I'm showing off all the books.
Oh, right.
Is just that at the end of the day, Bigby kind of made an offer. He's like, if you want those books to do that deal and to make it less complicated, basically, like, you can, instead of because I had the cash on me, so I kind of fronted the initial price. Instead of me paying you back, you can just take the books, basically.
Right.
And at first I was like, no, because I don't want to, I just, my knee-jerk reaction was no, just, keep it, the way we had it. And I'm stubborn. So I just was going with that for a little bit. And then eventually you kind of mentioned it again or something like that. And I was kind of like, that probably is smart. And I had to really talk to you and make sure you were okay with that. That's really what you wanted.
You were like, well, I don't want it to make it where it's not profitable for you. And I was trying to explain to you that I just had a really nice experience where I was able to do a really cool deal, and I want you to be able to do the same thing. And so I don't begrudge you. Like, don't mind having been the person who helped facilitate that deal. I want you to experience having a good deal, getting some keys that you want as well. So it's like this is the same thing we were saying earlier about good feelings amongst the community. We want everybody to be happy, and like it's not a big sacrifice for me. It's not like I'm really out anything. I said a few words and explained some things the way that I wanted the deal to go. That's really all that I'm out. And so I wanted to make things happen for you.
And it ended up being a really generous offer. You know, a lot of people probably wouldn't have done that. Is why I want to make sure to point that out. I think that's really cool you did that, and I appreciate it. Because eventually I was like, you know what? I have a problem sometimes accepting generosity. I was just telling somebody else that earlier today, and I was like, you know what? I should do this because it's obviously being offered in good faith. And so yeah,
coming from a good place.
Yes, exactly. So longer story shorter, I have a nice stack of Invincible books to show you here. A couple really nice ones. One of the bigger keys in the series, but nothing like a number one or anything like that. But do have Invincible 0, which was one of the first ones I pulled out. I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, that's a fun one. Invincible 36. These are all in pretty good shape too. I mean, some pressables.
Yeah, no, the condition looked great on them.
Yeah. Invincible 41. So some decent, you know, mid-ish kind of number books, you know, not just all the ones at the end. 42. And then you get to one of the bigger ones that I know a lot of people definitely are after. First Anissa in issue 44. And that was the one that he pulled out at the end from his backpack. He's like, well, you know, if you're interested in Invincible, I do have this.
Right.
That was the one we talked about at the end there. It's going through in number order here. 46. 87. And 91.
That dinosaur.
I love it. 104.
Getting late in the run there.
Yeah, and definitely caps off with some of the final books. 111, another one of the nicer issues. And then I actually will go out of order for one book on here and say we got 135. This is kind of all part of that final arc now that was happening. And then this is the book that I went over there for. Sorry, it was 136 was the issue number on that. That's the kind of other
cool cover. That's so good.
Yeah, great.
Adam Eve like listening on the podcast. It's Adam Eve kind of like almost like skating on her pink energy and then firing an energy blast while charging up another one on the other hand. It's
really very cool. It kind of evokes to me the really popular Adam Eve cover in the series, which is issue 14 that Frank Cho did the cover for.
Yeah, I love that cover.
137. Again, these are all at least I would say near mint. Got 138.
Yeah, getting way in the run there.
Yeah. 139 is the final regular issue from that particular deal. And then it also had the summer special free comic book day. So I grabbed that too. Which is cool. And then since we're doing this all right now, I'll kind of jump out of order again a little bit here to say that Bigby had an Invincible key in his keys box at the show.
Yeah.
And you bought it for how much again?
I got it for $1 2 shows ago.
At the Frankenstein Comic Swap.
At the Frankenstein Comic Swap.
Yeah.
And it was well over $100. It was like $120 book or something.
Yeah. And that
now it's $120 book. It wasn't a $120 book when I got it for $1, but it was still a key Invincible book that's probably worth like $30 or $40 when I got it for $1.
Yeah. Invincible. I mean, something that we talked about with the trade and a few other things. Invincible books have really shot up in value if you're not up on the market on those because of the show and just the popularity of that. And now you have season 4 coming out soon. Yeah. So the book that Bigby gave me a nice friendly deal on to kind of help out with the cap the trade. And this is how I definitely knew he was just, really trying to do me a favor here. Gave me a great deal on this, and I really appreciate that. Invincible 132, another of the bigger keys, and that's that Death of Thrag. Is that what that one is?
Death of Oliver.
Oliver. That's right. Yeah, that's okay.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For those that haven't read the comics,
or if you're just watching the show.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah. Yep. So maybe I'll bleep that part out.
Death of bleep.
But thank you for the help on the.
No, I just want to see you happy and get a really cool book that will help you with your goals of building your collection. And
yeah. And the cool thing about that, just to talk strategy for a second on that, have some options there, have a potential trade lined up for the next show with another vendor that we know is going to be there because they're at every single one. And could easily pick up a really big key that's on my short list, my top 5 of keys I'm looking for.
There's a fallback option as well that we've talked about too. So there's a couple of things we're helping strategize with each other to help him get something cool that he wants. So
yeah, and worst case scenario, there's always eBay, and I probably can make a fair chunk of change for whatever I want on that.
Probably do really well on if you did them that way too. Yeah,
sure. So can't really lose now at this point.
right. Win.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of the pickups on my side, and then so do you want to do anything else you want to talk about at the end of the show, or should we talk about the stuff you got, or
did you want to talk about like what we learned, or we do that at the very end of the show?
I think we should make that kind of our closing.
Wrap up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So towards the end of the show, our friend Travis from Comics Limited stopped by, and this kind of plays into the whole thing of my being in a weird headspace in the show. People were breaking down. We hadn't really communicated with our other people that we were with, like where we were at as far as when we wanted to leave, when they wanted to leave. So there was a lot of like jostling around in the booth going on. There was a neighbor guy that was trying to blow out some stuff that I was trying to take a look at for Comics Limited, because I knew he was doing a Halloween special show, and I had brought some books for him for that show he was doing later, I thought. And so Trav showed up and he said, I just finished up doing my Halloween show. And I was like, wait, I brought Halloween books for you, and I just got a bunch of graphic novels for you. He said, oh, I'm going to do another one. So that was okay. And then he pulled out a book and he's like, and this is something that you want. And I was like, and I was just in such a weird headspace. I was just like, I can't buy that. I just kept over and over telling him no. And he's like, look, just the stuff you brought and the graphic novels you picked up for me, that's cool. Here you go. And so I don't know if you guys are familiar with New York Comic Con, what happened there, but they had these Crow Halloween edition packs. This is a top loader with the pack in it. And so inside the packs, they had several different variant covers. I don't know if you guys can see those very well, but there's a ton of different variant covers. I think the highest print run on them is like 150.
Jeez.
Was the highest? 300.
Okay, it's still very low.
Yeah, and a lot of them were like 30 print runs of 30 and 50 and 100. And so he knows that I like the Crow, and so he got for me the Jim O'Barr limited to 100 cover. And so thank you, Travis. Very cool.
Wow.
Thank you for thinking of me for that, and making
That's
the
so
deal.
cool.
And I apologize for being in a weird headspace when you were trying to talk to me about it initially. But
you're talking about the end of the show. We're thinking about breaking down. We're thinking about trying to settle up things, or last minute, this needs to get done. There's a lot of stuff going on. So
right, and I had in my head like, this is how it's going to go, and I thought we were going somewhere to go meet Travis, and then he showed up at the show, and there was just a lot of chaos for me mentally, and I was probably I was hungry and tired, and
same, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, so there we are. We're into the show. We're breaking down. Oh, I did get this cool Iron Man thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I made a deal with Trav for it. So it's Iron Man. It's a wooden Iron Man, or Iron Man and Captain America, Tales of Suspense, D&D thing.
Yeah.
But we're breaking down. We're gonna go have we have dinner with Travis and his daughter and had some great conversation. And then we headed back to my place to kind of try to settle up, unload everything that we need to unload. And that's where we kind of got to, hey, so how did you feel about how things went? What did we learn? What do we want to do differently next time?
Kind of a post-mortem kind of.
Right.
So, and we have a few things here. I think one, maybe this is the most beneficial for people that might be thinking about doing something like this. I want to stress that nothing bad happened. This is more of like, where can we improve? That kind of thing.
Yeah. No. So we were both, and like, I could see how if you weren't on the best of terms with somebody, you could get really frustrated when you're trying to figure out what's going on with things. But we were both really cool about it with each other and figured it all out.
Yeah. Should we go with the big one first?
Yeah, the big one is at least in my book, is money tracking. We didn't really have a set forward what we were going to do. I had brought a money bag, and I had brought a certain amount of cash, and I brought a notebook to track sales. And so I put in some smaller bills in the money bag. Chris put some smaller bills in the money bag, and we started tracking. And as we said, we were going to split all of the bulk sales, so that wasn't a big issue. But we're also doing the keys and variants section of our sales as well, keeping track of whose is what on that.
Plus, on top of that, I had a card reader, so everything was going on that. Anybody who wanted a card from both of us was going on that with just my stuff, my card reader thing. So
yeah, so there was that. So there's, I mean, that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It made it a centralized thing to do it. Although, like, when you wanted to go browse, if we needed to run the card, it was I'd had to call you back or something. We never had that happen, but so yeah, what did we learn? We learned that we shouldn't pull money out of the bins unless it's absolutely an emergency. Because things got a little chaotic as far as like the first money pulled out was you wanted to make sure that you paid your part of the table off right away, that you wanted to get that not hanging over your head, so money came out of the bin. And then I did some purchases, you did some things, and
even before that though, I kind of screwed up because you talked about how you had the money bag, which is awesome. Yeah, notebook. That's kind of what we agreed on beforehand. That's how we track things. And you had started with the change, and I made sure that when we were, because unfortunately the banks were closed on Saturday morning. They weren't open yet for me to get certain denominations out, and the ATM just spit out bigger bills. So I tried to get some small change at a gas station. I had some small change on me. I put that in the money bag, but it was right before the show was going to open, and got kind of flustered, forgot exactly how much I put in. Because I was grabbing it from two different spots and just trying to get it in there so we had change for people.
And I wrote down the change that I put in, but somehow I didn't get exactly what you put in recorded. So yeah, accurate record keeping from the get-go if you guys are doing it as a team, that's pretty important.
And then like you said, I pulled out the person who had booked the tables. I pulled out the money for them because I knew I was going to forget or something. And I part of it is, for me, it's just I hate owing somebody something.
Right. Yeah, no, you wanted to make sure it was taken care of so you didn't have to think about it. It's also it's taking up brain space, it's checking in with you. Everyone, by the way, I still owe him that money. I still owe him that money. I totally get it.
And then you pulled some stuff for a purchase at one point too.
Right. And then we did some like buying from one another. So like we didn't actually track that very well. So like it should have been minus money off my side and plus money to Bronze's side, but all we did was we plus the money to Bronze's side and didn't minus it off of my side. So when we added up how much money should be in there, there was not enough money. So that was a thing. We were both running on, like I said, 3 and 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah,
So we're
absolutely.
probably
So
that didn't help.
well, and you know, it's kind of one of those things too, where here's the other thing, which is it's totally you expect it, but like sometimes you're not going to get a minute to write something down because the next person's already asking for something, and you don't want to leave somebody hanging for too long. You know, just a second's fine, but just a minute can really result in
They
them
can be like,
walking
I'm
away.
walking away.
Yeah,
You had me for that 10 seconds or whatever.
yeah.
I'm losing interest. Right. Yeah.
So, and some we acknowledge that some mistakes might have been made along those lines too, and clearly must have by the time we got to the end of it, because we were like, okay,
Yeah. And we
this
were
is kind of
super cool
strange.
about that.
Yeah,
We just went, okay, well, here's our first line of defense was, well, we'll just take it out of whatever the bulk books were, because we're splitting that evenly anyway. So whatever errors were made, we'll just take those errors out of the bulk, and then we'll split that whatever's left over out of that. So
yeah.
we worked it that way. That even after all we are fiddling and figuring, we still made a mistake. Chris took off, and I caught I was like, something's not right, and he was also like, something's not right, and my something's not right wasn't the something that was actually not right. Chris caught it, and we squared it all up and everything, so it was good.
Yeah.
But we at one point we were adding up numbers, and we did it 3 times in a row and came up with 3 different numbers, and I'm like, are we high?
No, we're just sleep deprived is what it turned out to be, and
Right.
tired,
Yeah.
and exhausted. But I want to be clear, like it wasn't. I don't think any of the problem was from mixing. Some people we talked to were kind of like, "Wait, you're doing that?" No, I don't think any of the problem was from mixing inventory or anything like that.
No.
The problem was in record keeping, and it
Yeah.
was
That was it.
in procedures that we had not discussed going in, basically,
Right. Yeah.
of what we were going to do there. So I think that was kind of all it was. And luckily, we definitely had a very close idea to where we were supposed to be, and so
Right.
we kind of just were able to modify that. We're like, okay, well, percentage wise, we know this is kind of where each of us needs to be, and we made that work, and
Right.
everybody was fine.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth pointing out. I think at least on my side, I did better than I expected to do. Going in, and
I didn't really know what to expect, but
yeah,
I kind of based my expectations on what happened with you last year. So
right.
I was kind of like, okay, if I just make a little bit over break even, I'm cool. And I made quite a bit more than break even, so I was happy.
Yeah, which is awesome. And then both got rid of some inventory for some extra space, which is great.
Right.
Um,
And then we said we talk about that later on. So Chris decided he didn't want to walk away with those bulk bins, and so we came to a number that we figured would work for both of us. Most of that stuff's going to make its way down to my kiosk at some point, and then Chris is going to get a payout gradually for a set amount that we agreed on for those bins. So
yeah,
yeah,
kind of a win-win. Gives you some new fresh inventory to rotate in, and admittedly, I think talking about seeding in some stuff that's a little bit more. Probably like people who know to dig for comics are probably gonna be like, oh, hey, I can't believe this is in here or whatever, a couple times maybe.
yeah, I might pull those things out and price those for
There you go.
future shows, and
Yeah, perfect.
then so I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that'll work out okay for me.
Yeah.
It was kind of after the fact, I was like, oh, I went through and I pulled books that I bought from Chris in the middle of the show from the bulk bins, and then I ended up buying all the bulk bins anyway for a better price. I should have just left all that stuff in there.
My master plan came into it. No, it's just kind of how
But
it
there's
worked
no
out.
saying that stuff would still be in there at the end of the show,
That's true.
because I picked
That's true.
some good stuff.
Yeah.
So
And so yeah, I gotta free up one of my main concerns, which was trying not to come home with too much inventory that I brought with me. And even before, I mean, still sold a good amount before that anyway. So that was good. That was already happy about that. That just put it over the top, and then felt like another win-win on top of it, to me at least. Hopefully the same for you. And
no, it was good.
okay. And then so that was another item to have. We should probably make sure we get back to the opportunities that we were going through here, though.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so the money thing was what it was. I mean, it was not, again, neither of us was stressed about it
No.
at the end. I mean, we were probably like, I just want to go to sleep. Let's figure this out.
Yeah. No, I'm confident that we figured it out pretty close to
Yeah.
as exact as we could. And it was good. And I credit that a lot to both of us being like just super kind to each other and patient with each other.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, well, I think maybe this is what happened. No, maybe this is what happened. And you know what? Actually, I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
So
And we figured out a couple of the discrepancies, throughout the process, which got us closer to being better anyway.
mhm.
Um, the next thing that we kind of talked about, actually, before we started recording this, we kind of had some things that came up during the show that we kind of were able to kind of maybe put through a little bit more clear lens after the show, which is kind of the idea of I call it, just from my retail background, I call it visual merchandising. That can be things like signage. It can be things like trying to have a presence that looks uniform or looks professional. Uh, Honestly, at Frankenstein Comic Swap, that's probably not the most important thing, because there's a lot of people there, like I said, that are you know in you could make the argument maybe that you might look better for having some uh, uh you know odd
I would
looking
say
boxes.
we looked pretty uniform with our signage.
We did, I think
No,
so.
it could be improved on. I thought
Yeah.
as compared to a lot of booths, yeah, we look pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. We just kind of probably have an idea of how it could look a little bit more clean, or a little
Mhm.
bit more, maybe tiny bit more standout, even if we end up in a spot where we're not going to be on the normal beaten path. We're hopefully going to get those people that are like, oh, I'm going to check them out because they look like I got some stuff. One thing that goes along with that is QWERTY has a kind of like a A-frame wall kind of display type thing for behind the tables. And both times that we've been there, he's been pretty, hey, put something up or whatever on that, or whatever. It's been pretty cool about that. Shout out, that's awesome. Thanks for doing that. But
Mhm.
probably we need to come up with our own kind of solution for that. We did talk about it, but it was probably too difficult at the final hour with trying to the car thing and not knowing how much space we were going to have, and that car, that actually probably would have been way more difficult to do.
Yeah.
But we could have made it work, but it seemed like a lot of extra at the time. Next time we should probably have a solution for that should be ready to go, and maybe even an awesome solution for that. And then I guess that's really kind of it. We talked about maybe kind of, I don't know, getting the signs all at the same level or whatever, with some uniform
Yeah,
boxes, that kind of thing.
Christopher has some nicer boxes that have a different height level for where the handles are. And so my signage was lower on the boxes, whereas Chris's was a little higher. So when he could put the lids under his boxes and still not be covering up his signage. If I put the lids under my boxes, I was covering up my signage. So everything wasn't quite exactly uniform.
Yeah.
But I think it looked pretty darn good. I
Again,
mean,
in comparison to a lot of other booths and stuff,
yeah.
I think it was fine.
Um, and then what was the last thing was kind of give each other a break, right?
Yeah, like kind of maybe beforehand have an idea of like, okay, like around this time, like the way you said it, like maybe set an alarm or whatever on our phones. Because I mean, here's the thing to remember: at the longest stretch you could possibly imagine the show being, it's only 7 hours. It's
Right.
not a multi-day show. It's not Saturday, Sunday. It's not Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's only on one Saturday, and it's only from 11 to 6. Um,
And then you're going to
and
have to wait a whole 6+ months to do it again. And you're going to
yeah,
be going, I didn't get to go look for books. Yeah.
exactly. And it's something we both love about that show.
Mhm.
And then I think, honestly, to be generous to ourselves, like probably give each other like a 10-minute break to go eat or go stretch our legs or go use the restroom. And that wasn't a problem for us. I think we both kind of were in workaholic mode, probably a little too much,
Yeah.
maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
that's good, maybe that's bad.
I was also kind of inclined to stay in one spot because I'm
Yeah.
having hip and back problems. So I was, Christopher was kind enough to offer. He's like, "Do you want to go look for stuff?" And I was just like, I think I better stay put." And I'm like, you go ahead. And that's when he went and found those Invincibles. And he came back. He's like, "Hey, can you come with me for a minute?" I was like, "Sure." So,
Yeah.
um,
I think it worked out. But it's just an idea of like maybe trying to schedule in some time to each make sure that we have, because the way I described it earlier was you know, it really would suck to go to that show, be walking out being like, I can't believe I didn't look at that. It's one of those things where there's some once in a lifetime things that can happen at this show. And we've had people
Oh,
come
I know
from,
there's once in a lifetime deals that happen all over the place that we didn't get to be a part of, or we saw them walking by or happening in front of us. All over the place. What Dan?
Right.
What did Dan? He got some sort of a video gaming system for like $20, like a really good one, right?
Yeah, just some crazy things like and you could walk around the entire show and not run into those once in a lifetime things, but the FOMO, like the literal fear of missing out, of not even getting to take one lap. Like I never went downstairs the entire time.
Right.
And I had a couple people I knew that were vending downstairs that I would have liked to have been able to say hi to. Or
yeah, me too. I saw them walk by our booth, and I was like, I know he's downstairs, but yeah, not making it.
Yeah, and so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, maybe baking in that time to kind of have your cake and eat it too, in a way, like let each person, maybe not for 2 hours or whatever, but hey, for 20 minutes or something. Yeah. So
I think maybe also like holding each other accountable to pricing and getting ready a little bit more, because like, hey, are you ready? Are you really ready? So we can be, rested and on time, and
have some strategy meetings.
Have some strategy, and so
for sure.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, honestly, like if we're walking away and we're making mountains out of molehills here, like I feel like that's
oh yeah, no, I literally I don't have any complaints. I'm just looking at like, well, we could improve a little here. This might help a little bit, but overall, I think everything went great. I couldn't ask for a better partner.
Same
working with. It was good, and I had a blast. My face hurt from smiling too much after the next day. So
because that wasn't the only thing that hurt, but it definitely one of the things.
Yeah, my back hurt, but my face hurt, my cheeks. So I was like, just from too much smiling and having a good time and laughing and just enjoying spending good quality time with my friends. One of the things I do regret is I was right there with Dan, but I just felt like I was so engaged in selling that I didn't really get to talk to him very much. Scott PDX, he was there. Like, he and I send art back and forth on Instagram. Don't really get to talk to him very much. And I felt, I'll be honest, I felt a little like almost guilty that I didn't get to talk with him.
Same. We had like a kind of a wave kind of moment as we were trying to get back to our booth.
But and like even like Damien Sleepy Reader came by, and I felt like I was so busy trying to sell and work with other people and stuff that I didn't get to talk and spend the quality. But maybe that's not the place for it. But it's one of those places where you only get to see those people a few times a year, and so it's like you feel bad if you don't get to do that. So
I definitely understand where you're coming from. I think especially somebody as cool and chill as Damien, I think he understood. And I was going out and trying to do a couple of little quick, like, filling and tidying up kind of stuff, and I had a couple extra minutes to talk to him, and I think he had a good time coming up to us. But I know.
I don't think he had a negative experience. I regret not having had the time to. Which, like I'm saying, it's probably not the place and time to do that.
Right.
But
if you were there shopping it, you would have had more of a chance to talk to him, and
we
I
could have
totally get it.
Floor together and spent time talking. But when you're vending,
or heck, the first time we went out to lunch with him.
Yeah, we did. We went out to lunch with Bueller and him and Scott. A bunch of those people. So
yeah, absolutely. I would. Yeah. So that kind of stuff is definitely, and part of that comes along with it. It's just such a short show. Really, you're trying to maximize that time. It is a fair amount of work to get everything together, get everything priced, get everything ready to go, take it to the show, set up at the show, and you're it's not like it's 9 to 7 or something like that. It's just that 7-hour window, and you're not coming back the next day. We had multiple people say like, it'd be awesome if this was happening in tomorrow.
We did. I was just gonna say, we had multiple people saying like, why isn't this a 2-day show?
Yeah.
And we were like, there's reasons.
Yeah.
And then you and I had a conversation of like, you're like, I haven't ever done a multi-day show. How does that work? And I'm like, you just take your really, really expensive stuff and you cover everything up with the tarp, and you trust that people are going to have their eyes open for you, and you're going to have their eyes open for them. And, the security is going to do their job.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Um, Yeah, but I mean, I think that what I kind of want to close out with and talking about is just reiterating that it was a great time. It was a lot of fun. It was a cool experience. It's
Mhm.
only my second time doing it there, but it was my first time doing it with Bigby. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that's the way we can do it going forward. And I think that's the way it's going to be going forward, at least for a while. But yeah, we try to give each other that opportunity to kind of look around a little bit and feel like we didn't miss out on that part of the show too much.
Yeah.
But hey, for me at least, like I'm more in the selling mode than I am in a buying mode. So it's like, all right, great.
Yeah, I
Let's
think it's kind of
you know,
a kickstart to do
yeah,
more of that. I mentioned as we were driving home, and I go, well, now that we've got all that stuff priced, there's no excuse for us to not do a claim sale, right?
yep, very true.
And the other thing I'd like to see us do is like some of our friends after the show have started listing books on Instagram. Like, all right, I have these left over from Frankenstein. What do you guys? Is anybody else interested in these? And I noticed like Dan's been selling a bunch of stuff
Yeah,
from that. So
yeah, great
those
stuff too.
are encouraging things for us to try and
Yeah,
make some money that way too. So we can get some of those bigger
100%.
keys that we want.
Definitely, definitely. And yeah, it's a great show if you're in the neighborhood in October or March of the year and you're into comic books and into seeing like the best way I can describe it is like sometimes they have those like neighborhood sales where a bunch of people pool like garage sales together or whatever.
Mhm.
It's basically like that, but just for pretty much just for comic books.
And
And
it's a lot of
it's
people just wanting to liquidate stuff and not
yeah,
necessarily being super focused on price. So it's
yeah,
like you can find some great deals, and it's a win-win for everybody. Everybody's happy going forward. That's like we said, the best deals are when both sides walk away happy.
yeah.
Um,
A lot more
there was
trades going on than a lot of other shows too.
Yeah, people buying out complete booths and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like I would say, like we had the neighbor who was selling graphic novels, and at the end he was like, "I don't want to take this stuff home with me. $50 a box for like boxes full of graphic novels, Or and then he was like $5 a book, and then he was like, at the end he just started throwing graphic novels in a box, and he goes, "These are yours," and he just stuck them by me. I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah," and that's gonna be what it is. And I said, unless you decide to put more in there. And then later on he came over and started putting more books in the box.
Yeah, it's a very fun atmosphere. I highly recommend checking it out. I know Big B does too. And hey, next March we're gonna be there. We're gonna have a table there or a couple tables there. Definitely come check it out. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to say hi. And
Yeah.
if you've had any experiences at Frankenstein that you want to share in the comments below, we'd love to hear about it. If you have any experiences at other comic swaps or conventions or this kind of show, definitely let us know. We'd love to hear about it in the comments and yeah, use some of that as
Feedback
information for future
feedback
shows.
on what we said, like or how you view the way we ran things. If you think that, you would have done them differently, let us know. Like
Yeah,
we're always open to listening to new ideas, right?
for sure, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely one of those keys is trying to yeah, I always like to improve a little bit on everything, and I always think there's room for improvement. So kind of an unfortunate trait sometimes, but also you end up with some really high standards. So
Every day a little bit better,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly.
Right. And like this was a step up from your last show. So if we can do
Yeah,
another step up each time, it
big
gets
stepping
better and
stone.
better.
100%, 100%. And yeah, so we'd love to see you at the next one. Check it out. Leave a comment down below. And also, stay tuned. We're going to have more installments of this podcast coming up here. This is Best Coast Comics. Definitely check us out. We have a live show every Monday night on several different YouTube channels, including both of ours and over on the EXP. So check out that live show. We'd love to see you hanging out in the live chat there or watching on the rewind or whatever, too. We talk a lot about comic book news and all kinds of fun stuff on there and community artwork that we had some community artwork that we picked up at this show, some stuff that we're going to probably post on our next live stream. We're going to get that stuff all shown to you guys so you guys can check it out. But yeah, thanks for watching or listening, and we'll catch you in the next one. For Bigby, I'm Bronze, and check us out next week on Best Coast Comics.
Oh, hey.